All right, we still have a couple of people joining in, but we will start right on time. So, hello everyone and welcome to DAB's webinar series with today's webinar topic, which is Future-Proofing Data Analytics in Internal Audit, Insights from BASF's Digital Transformation Journey, which I will be doing today with Denis, showing you some insights of our project that we had together, DAB and BASF. The webinar will last about 45 minutes. We will have 15 minutes reserved for all your questions that you might have that you can put in the Q&A session or section in the Teams webinar. And hello to everyone that joins in later because they're watching the recording of it. Slides will be shared as well. And if there will be the situation that we do not be able to cover all the questions in time that you might have, we will catch up with you later after the webinar, but feel free to connect with Denis or me via LinkedIn or all other options that you might have to get into a conversation with us or maybe ask your questions. Happy to do that. Right, my name is Robert Galetzka. I'm head of product at DAB. I'm here at DAB for almost 10 years, 8 years as a full-time employee, and I'm very happy to see how our products are used in a daily basis at our client side. And I was very happy to be part of the project here with BASF, where we drove the digital transformation using DAB Nexus. With me is Denis. Hi, Denis.
Hi, everyone, and a warm welcome also from my side. My name is Denis Nguyen. I'm 42 years old and a chartered accountant by training. Over the last 16 years, I've mostly worked in the audit field. I started out my professional career at Ernst & Young, and after finalizing my chartered accountant certification, I moved on to corporate audit at BASF in 2011. So for the next roughly 5 years, I mainly worked on general audits as well as an audit focused on shared service organization. And during this time, I contributed to the development and implementation of structured data analysis at BASF Corporate Audit with a focus on general audits. In 2016, I moved to Switzerland, where I took over responsibility for process and finance audits at Swisscom. And although our team there didn't have a dedicated audit analytics platform, our team was very passionate on data-driven audit approaches. We mainly used low-code and no-code tools to perform our analytics. And then finally in September 22, I got the opportunity to take over responsibility for digitalization and data analytics topics for corporate audit at BASF. And one of my first tasks there was actually to refactor our existing audit analytics landscape. And I'm very happy to share my insights from this journey with you today.
Great, thank you. Right, so the agenda for today will be just to give you a short overview of BASF and DAB as a company itself, and then we will hop into how the challenges were of the legacy systems, what kind of decision criteria were set up for building a data analytics stack at BASF. I will show you then the functionalities and features of DAB Nexus with a very short demonstration. It's not the purpose to demonstrate DAB Nexus itself, this webinar, but I will show you how it looks like and what it's capable of. Then we will have a look into the implementation project itself and its status, where we're currently at, and then also giving you a bit of an view on the vision of audit analytics at BASF and what kind of things we still want to implement during this project and how we cooperate on this. And after that, we will have a very 15 short minutes Q&A with you of all the questions that you might have. Right. So DAB, we are working constantly since several years on developing products around data analytics, making data analytics less of a hassle, less obstacles in your way, and just being a tool that you really like to use in your daily business and making just things easier. We are not there yet where we want to be, but we're constantly working from day to day on that. And since 2004, we have products in line for data extraction, data transformation that I will be showing you today as well that are in place at BASF. We right now have 50 employees, which is a milestone for us. And as a head of product, I'm very happy to see that we have over 250 customers using our products day to day in their work in over 20 countries all over the planet. And yeah, as I mentioned, 2024, we were founded. We have 24, sorry, 20 years of DAB. We are celebrating this with a very nice event. If you want to join us, if you want to hear to very nice keynotes and talks that we have, clients of ours are there just explaining or showing their experience they had with our products and how they were able to achieve things with cool things that we do also around AI. You shouldn't miss that. You will see the link here. You can also use the QR code, sign up and join us in, I guess, end of June it is, here on our premises on a very nice event that we are planning. Right. Another company that is around the globe and also from Germany is BASF, right?
Yes. Maybe just a few words for those who don't know us already. BASF is one of the largest chemical companies globally. We are headquartered in Germany, Ludwigshafen, and our claim is to create chemistry for a sustainable future. We are active in 6 core segments: chemicals, materials, industrial solutions, surface technologies, nutrition and care, as well as agriculture solutions. We have roughly 112,000 employees globally currently, and in 2023, we had 7 billion euro sales. Even though you will not find the BASF logo on many consumer products, I'm virtually certain that many of the things that you're using in your daily life, your car, your furniture, etc., will have some BASF product in it. Yeah, so our audit department comprises a bit more than 60 auditors, with regional audit departments located in Germany, the US, Brazil, Malaysia, India, and Greater China. And my team is located in Germany, and we are responsible for digitalization, systems, and processes for the audit department. Yes, that's about it on BASF from my side.
Great. Yeah. Last time I looked up the relationship that we have together, DAB and BASF, in terms of project, products, and customer-wise. It's over 10 years now that we are working together. So back in the days with DAB Exporter, also with the analytics, we built already many things. And yeah, you were to that time at BASF, you left for Swisscom, you came back to BASF. That's where we met. And that's where we started to work together, you and I, on establishing DAB Nexus on your sites. Then that was also the time where I saw your legacy systems that you were working on, and that was also where the point where we said, well, we could make things even better for you. Can you show us or describe to us what kind of systems you were using back in the days? How did you organize that, and what kind of criteria you set up to build a new data analytics stack?
Yeah, sure. Maybe first, let me share some background on data analytics at corporate audit in BASF. We basically started professionalizing SAP data analytics a bit more than 10 years ago. That was when we started with DAB. What exactly does that mean? We basically moved from a fully manual SAP front-end based approach, extracting with SAP Query, for example, or SE16 table downloads, to a tool-based data extraction with DAB Exporter. And then at the same time, we started transforming mainly Excel-based manual analytic steps into readily usable analytic scripts using ACL as a scripting language. We basically used a mix of standard analytic scripts offered by DAB already at the time. One famous example would be the duplicate payment script we've been using since then. And we also used, of course, own developed scripts. At the very beginning, the software was still running on auditors' desktop machines, but then over the years, we changed to a server-based setup, which enabled us to schedule data extraction as well as analytic scripts. And that was, of course, especially handy for our continuous auditing scripts. So those scripts are, for example, performing periodic checks on high-power SAP roles like SAP All or Debug and Replace. And the solution was overall running pretty stable. The biggest challenge for us was really to secure sufficient expertise in ACL as a scripting language. In my personal experience, it's very hard to find ACL programmers on the job market. And unfortunately, it's equally difficult to get young talents excited about learning ACL. And I think the reason is quite obvious. For many young professionals, corporate audit rather serves as a career stepping stone, right? So those people don't really have an incentive to learn a programming language that they will no longer need once they move on and leave corporate audit. But anyways, as I've said, we've been running data analytics with a mix of desktop and server-based versions with DAB Exporter and ACL for quite some years. But then I think it was roughly 2020, Diligent actually announced the end of support for our solution, which was ACL Analytics Exchange by 2023. I think it was mid-year. So we knew we had to take a decision, and we need to decide how to proceed with our data analytics stack. And I guess the easiest and most seamless option would have probably been the migration to ACL robotics platform as the succession system. We, however, decided to take a step back and to evaluate the best solution for corporate audit in kind of a greenfield approach, if you want so. So the main aspects we're looking at the time was first checking and leveraging synergies with existing infrastructure and solutions that would be already be there in the BASF landscape. Then second, ensuring future readiness, for example, the ability to apply machine learning or artificial intelligence on it. Third, preserving our existing analytics scripts. And last but not least, of course, also making the maintenance and further development of our scripts as easy as possible. So in 2021, we started evaluating possible solutions. And initially, a setup facilitating our enterprise data lake in combination with Azure Data Labs sounded very promising. However, in course of the project, we realized that our very unique data requirements, and what was that? Coverage of basically all BASF entities for all major business processes, procurement, order to cash, you name it, including all the change tables, and then ideally also covering 2 to 3 years of transaction data. All that would have resulted in a very complex and data-intense data pipeline, and hence would become very pricey. And at the same time, we learned that DAB is working on a SQL server-based solution that covers both data extraction as well as data analytics. And I think it was then around summer 2022 when we initiated our discovery workshop, looking at mainly 2 options together with DAB. The first one would have been the migration to ACL robotics, and the second, the migration to DAB Nexus. So we were quite happy that together we were able to identify an implementation scenario that basically ticked all our boxes. And early 2023, we then started with our refactoring project. So what were the key reasons why at the end we opted for the implementation of DAB Nexus? I think first and foremost, it was SQL as a main scripting language. As mentioned before, one of our struggles historically was keeping sufficient ACL expertise in our unit. And with SQL as one of the most popular scripting languages for data analytics, we think we have a good start here. So maintaining and further developing scripts will be quite easy. Second, DAB Nexus is a very flexible and almost tool-agnostic setup, if you want so. So the extracted data is readily available in SQL databases, and DAB Nexus actually allows us, therefore, a very user-centric approach to the data. What does that mean? On the one hand, experienced data analysts are free to use state-of-the-art tools like SQL, Python, or R to develop even complex scripts and analysis. And on the other hand, we can offer no-code and low-code solutions to our audit community. I already mentioned, I think in the beginning, that my audit team at Swisscom extensively used no-code tools for data analytics. And in my personal experience, it can be very empowering for the audit function. I've seen auditors that would have struggled setting up a proper Excel VLOOKUP formula, building quite complex data analysis with the help of no-code tools. So that's why we think the stack will be quite future-proof for the years to come. And then what was a third decision criteria was the topic of data minimalization. There's been significant improvement in the data modeling with DAP Nexus compared to the previous version. It allows for very targeted data extraction. An example would be that with the package manager, you can now kind of indirectly filter on company codes, even on tables that were before not able to be filtered. EGBE as an example, or the SAP change tables. So this basically also allowed us to move back from a data pool concept that we had with almost 25 terabytes of data capacity down to an on-demand data extraction strategy with now only 5 terabytes of data. And even though we were embracing a switch from ACL to SQL, this of course also meant that we had to translate all our existing scripts from ACL to SQL. And transforming all those scripts one by one from ACL to SQL would have been a quite big project. However, as DAB Nexus is able to integrate own content with what they call analytics suite content that is licensed, we followed what we call the hybrid approach. So where possible, we used existing analytic suite content, the one that's licensed, and then we co-developed the delta, so whatever we had developed on top, and we programmed that as so-called custom analytics in course of the implementation project. Yeah, I don't know, Robert, do we want to look at the implementation project now, or you first?
I would be showing now the DAB Nexus, but you explained it already so well. I don't know if I need my slides anymore. I do actually have a question or something I would like to discuss about it with you. Many of our clients are usually confronted with the situation when they implement such a tool or they want to acquire such a tool for their work. There's the IT department that is saying, well, look, guys, we have already something in place. We are already extracting data. We have data somewhere in a warehouse or in a lake house or whatever you want to call it, but data is there. We can provide it for you, or there is data, use that is there. Can you give us some experience or gut feeling of pros and cons on that?
Yeah, I mean, basically, of course, if the data would be readily available, great, we would have gone that route as well. But in my experience, the problem is a little bit, as I mentioned, if you dig into things like change tables, if your requirement is basically to have all data for all legal entities readily available for all the processes, this is not something that's already lying in your data lake. It's becoming quite specific, at least in my experience, and that's why in the end we ended up extracting our data our own.
Yeah, would you agree on that, saying having your own tool with those capabilities, like for DAB Nexus, gives you also more freedom and flexibility in your work?
I mean, I think yes, of course. If we would have implemented a EDL solution for that, and then let's say you want an extra table, I could imagine this could take quite some time. So, of course, with DAB extraction tools, you're always free to remodel your package. This is certainly an advantage. Yeah.
Great. So that's an experience that we had in some of our opportunities that we had in discussions with some prospects where the IT said, well, we can provide something similar to that, but it comes always on the costs of the individual freedom and flexibility that you have with a tool, that you can do express yourself with your own ideas with that tool, do that data extraction, do that transformation, and you're not relying on that is available in the data lake that the IT is providing. And if you want to have something changed or added to it, then it's always a long process and chain of change requests. And sometimes some tables can be provided. That's something we also realized in projects, that change tables, for example, which are very interesting for data extraction as the SAP, are usually not provided in such a lakehouse. And which is something DB Nexus is capable to, also in terms of our analytics, to extract it along with the other data and provide it to you for your own data analytics, or to run our transformations on the data. Right. Thank you very much, Dennis. I would just take over for a bit, showing our audience here what DAB Nexus is all about. We're coming from a position where we had a separate tool for data extraction called the former known as DAB Exporter, and a very huge portfolio that is now AI enhanced of analytics that is called DAB Analytics Suite. And we're thinking of, why do not we make it more easier for our clients and users to run data analytics just on the transformation scripts right away and store it somewhere safe, just in one tool by a push of a button. At least that was the idea. And what we did out of it was the DAB Nexus. If you think of a data analytic process, it follows always a certain path. It's the ETL process. You extract, you transform, and you load. And then you have your results, which you usually want to distribute to your audience, which could be a separate department, your group, your team, or yourself. And then follow up those results in SAP, especially when you're from the audit. When it comes to the data extraction, or just the analytic process in general, we call it the end-to-end process that we provide with DAB Nexus, as DAB Nexus is doing all of that for you, from data extraction to follow up the results in SAP, providing the results and storing them. I will go along this analytic process and explain to you what kind of things are covered by it, by DAB Nexus, and how. Extracting data from SAP is done with our certified connector, SAP certified connector, where we connect to your SAP system and extract it with predefined packages. Either you can define those extraction packages by yourself with a feature that's called Package Studio. Here is a screenshot of how it looks like, and we have here a data lineage displayed in a canvas area, which also visualizes your package on how the data is interconnected with each other, with the filters, how they influence each other if you apply a filter there or do a repository there. Lots of terms flying around right now, but at least it shows you all the capabilities of what the tool does. And that's something for someone that wants to dive into data extraction and get the data that they need for their reporting, or or even you're from IT and want to put data from SAP into Lakehouse, then DB Nexus is the suitable tool for that. It's very efficient in data extraction and allows you with the Package Studio to really define on what you want to extract and put it into a SQL server. That's where DB Nexus is working on. So as a central storage, we are using a Microsoft SQL Server, which can be either on-premise on your side, or either a Azure SQL database that you are using. That's up to you. Now we come to the interesting part. Once you have the SAP data extracted from in the SQL Server, you usually want to do something with it. You could definitely do a reporting based on raw data, but definitely you want to do a transformation on that. You can either do it by your own, or you're using something that is called DAB Analytics Suite, which is our portfolio of 300 data analytics that are ready to run on SAP data. Now, if you look in the market, you have everywhere AI lying around as a buzzword, but we are not using it just as a buzzword, but also have it implemented on our analytics where it just makes sense, and we're working with our clients together just to get more out of the analytics. So on top of the ready-made analytics that we have that run on the SAP data, we have some of them enhanced with AI just to make it more hassle-free when working with the results, to remediate it from the false positives that there might be. So we had lots of projects together with clients working on having a better base for all the discounts that you might have missed, or for duplicate payments. Colleague of mine, Moritz, is doing a lot of webinars on that as well. I will be mentioning at the end of the webinar as well another one that is upcoming with a AI-based analytic that might be interesting for you. So we are doing lots of things around AI on that here. And yeah, even though if not everything is where the others are working as well, very nice, as they are providing you a lot of content around areas that we have in SAP, purchasing, sales, already made just to run, and then adding it to your portfolio of controls and tests that you might have, for example, in the context of audit, or if you're working in a accounting department, you might want to see what kind of payments were laid or anything else that we have in there. Also, we are working in areas like process mining. That's where we have our expertise as well in data extraction and transformation into event log. Whether tool you use for process mining, it's up to you. But what we do is we deliver you a strong basis in no time that you can load into your tool and look up the process with our analytics. Yeah, as mentioned, there are lots of areas we cover with those analytics. So it's very interesting, especially if you want to go into data analytics as they are ready to run. You don't need to even define what kind of tables you need to extract to, because it's in the definition of the analytics. And working with it as it's integrated in DAB Nexus, it's ready to run depending on your selection of analytics. And then depending on your use case, they can either run a standalone, or with the functionalities of DAB Nexus called custom analytics, you can add your own ideas into the application and run it along with the standard analytics, which is a very interesting way of doing data analytics, as you can express yourself with that as well, that we do at BASF for certain tasks where we have custom analytics in place. Right, so how does it look like, I would say, in production? Unfortunately, we're not able to show anything that BASF does. Probably you understand why, but luckily we have a demo environment where we can show you how it's done, basically in a very subtle way or easy way. As a user of DB Nexus, you have workspaces which you can use as an organizational element to have workspaces for departments, for your audit areas, or for organizational units, for example. That's the place where you run your task, your analytics task, or your extraction task. Package Studio is the place where you define data extraction if you want to define it on your own. But if you're running DAB Analytics Suite Analytics, you will have to go to the Content Studio, where you can define so-called analytic groups. So you bundle the analytics together in a analytic group, which you want to execute in a task to be extracted, saying all the tables, and then transformed into the selected analytics. So what I will be using is here the analytic called or the analytic group called Webinar Demo, which contains the analytic duplicate payments, and for the purchasing a base table, which is a connection of all the tables around purchasing just joined into one table on which I can maybe later run my own ideas in terms of custom analytics. Right, to do so, I switch to workspaces, and I have here a workspace where I create a new task that I want to execute in. First, I will select the SAP system. I have here 3 ones. I will selecting our S4HANA system, and then I will have here a strategy called override. That's a bit too much in detail that I need to explain here, but basically here I define on how the data should be stored in a SQL server. Should it be deleted after certain days or so? That is up to configuration that a user can do. Here I have options of scheduling. So if I want to have it as a recurring task and maybe also a calculation of the time period, then scheduling is the way to go. I would just say run immediately. And then here is my analytic group that I've selected before. In the sake of the webinar, already predefined also the parameters here, so I do not have to type in the values, but that's maybe also a very convenient feature for you when it comes to parameters like the reporting currency, which is a functionality of DAF Analytics Suite that we use the SAP currency conversion for your convenience to display the values in the reporting currency that you might have. Here it's euros. Then it's a parameter I can prefix that you don't need to enter every time you select this analytic group. Right, so depending on the selection of analytics that you might have in your analytic group, you will be displayed different kind of parameters that you can enter. And these kind of parameters are used for filtering the data extraction. So we just extract the data that we need for these kind of analytics. But also certain parameters are used in the data analytic to maybe exclude intercompanies, for example. Here I have the option to output into third-party services, like for example, Excel or CSV, if you want to distribute it to others if they do not have any access to a SQL server. And in the last step, I would just give it a name for my task and then click on Finish. And it will create for me an analytic task with an analytic run. Here I see again all the parameters that I have set in configuration. And yeah, here it is scheduled and now just running. We might not see something happening yet because in the background it's resolving all those SAP tables, checking if it's available for extraction, if the fields of my selection are available. This can like take up to a minute or something. And once this is done, it will start right away extracting the data from the SAP system. As you can see, I had not mentioned anything here to the DB Nexus, what kinds of table do I need or I want to extract from. It just selected those analytics I want to extract and DB Nexus does the stuff for you. So it's very convenient and you get in no time to your analytic results. And the analysis tab, you can see here the analytics that I've selected that should be generated will be here created here. So after the data extraction that is happening here, I can also see the status of the analysis, how many records were generated and which kind of tables were created by that. Right, so that's basically how BASF is executing analytic tasks on their side, especially when they're running analytic tasks for as a preparation for one of their audits. They're selecting a specific analytic group and then executing this task on their Nexus side. You can just maybe wait here a couple of seconds just to give you a sense of how data extraction is done with DB Nexus. Obviously, I can say now it's very fast, but you see the record count is not that big. But I can assure you, once you're using this on your side, even though you probably have more data than we do have in our test system, it's still very fast and very convenient. and you do not care about data analytics anymore because it's simply done by DAB Nexus for you, and you just enjoy your time checking the analytic results as it provides you more time, as you do not need to play around with the data or with all technical difficulties, as DAB Nexus takes care of that for you. Right, so that's how DAB Nexus works. That's what DAB Nexus is capable of. How much of it were already implemented, Dennis, and what kind of where are we currently?
Yeah, let's have a brief look at our implementation project. Basically, our first homework was to identify our existing scripts and whether they can be covered by Analytics Suite content, and then to define the existing deltas. So basically, we did exactly what Robert just showed. We are using a mix of ready-made analytics, and duplicate payments would be one example. Then we use those base tables as an example. I think Robert was showing the PU base table, purchasing base table.
Yes.
And on top of those base tables, we would then create our what we call custom analytics. Yeah, the initial installation and configuration was a quite smooth exercise. Next, we tackled the topic of result representation. In the end, we opted for what we call a pull approach. So what does that mean? We basically created Excel and Power BI templates that pull the required data out of DAB Nexus databases. So the database name in this example is maintained as a parameter in the templates and can therefore easily be swapped. There's one database created for each analytic job we are starting. So if I have a new legal entity audit coming up, I just create the job. It will create a new database, and then I just switch the database name and my templates can be populated. And depending on the use case, we might even apply some filters at the very end and do some transformations directly in Power Query in that case. So for translating our own developed ACL scripts into SQL-based custom analytics, we worked in migration waves, taking one topic after the other and comparing the results in ACL versus DAB Nexus for user acceptance testing, basically. The cutover of our platform took place in time and on budget in June 2023. And yeah, this is about it. The first part was the refactoring project. So the main objective was to preserve all the scripts we have and put it into a future-proof platform. And this project basically then, or this target was reached already mid last year. And now we are, of course, working on our vision on new features to be implemented. And I'll give a glance on that later on.
Yeah, I was quite happy to see how, I mean, it's worth to mention that back in the days when we did the project, probably in DAB Nexus was not that mature that it is now. As many of the features were coming as well, like end of last year or also this year. But we will still able to pull it off, and just to make it possible for you to switch from your legacy stack to the new one, to make you future-proof already with the capabilities that DAB Nexus had back in the days, and also having all the content of the DAB Analytics Suite available in Nexus, so you can just run it and provide or utilize it in your audit work. So that was the past. Now, what's the future?
Yeah, sure. Maybe let me dive a little bit on our audit analytics vision, how I call it. Our vision is basically to build an ecosystem that allows us to serve auditors with all relevant data and analytics, covering the entire audit process, from risk assessment to scoping, all the way to substantive testing and continuous monitoring. So I don't know if you can flip maybe one slide further. Exactly. So we mainly use Power BI for audit tasks that are focused on data exploration, for example, in the risk assessment and in the scoping phase. And we think that Excel is the right tool for audit tasks that require deep dives and also require result documentation. Maybe some examples in the audit scoping and preparation phase. This is now the top line in the slide. You might want to get an overview of, I don't know, sales development of a company. You might want to understand the main products, main customers you're selling to. You may want to understand the overall procurement spend and the types of goods and services purchased. So all these kind of, you can call it helicopter view information, I think would nicely be displayed in Power BI dashboards. And the data source for that would mainly be our business warehouse system. So maybe coming back to our discussion earlier, can you use enterprise data lake or things? I think for these kind of tools for risk assessment, tools that where the information is readily available, that's really nice, and we opted for that. But then once you move to the audit field work, and we're now moving to the middle section of the slide, where you want to perform your deep dives and where you want to have, I don't know, for example, look at potential duplicate payments, or you may want to understand why certain receivables were prolongated, have a look at some credit or debit notes. For those kind of deep dives, you also definitely want to document your findings somehow. We think Excel is the right tool, and the right data source for that is really, I mean, we are auditors. Ideally, we want to extract the data at source, and that's why we want to connect to SAP ECC systems directly here. Yeah, so for the top layer, maybe just to summarize, we pull data out of the business warehouse. It's called trusted structures in our enterprise data lake. For the middle section, the data that's used for fieldwork and substantive testing, we extract from SAP systems at source. And then the bottom part is basically all other data. We are using low-code, no-code tools. We want to use desktop automation tools also in future. But just as an example, also today, we are using NIME, which is a quite popular low-code, no-code tool to import data on its general company data that's not maintained in SAP. I don't know, is the company covered by a shared service center? Who are the main contacts for the key processes and so on? So we extract this data with NIME, and we then put it into a DAB SQL Server database, so it can be also consumed by the templates we use for our general audits, the ones that I mentioned earlier. So it's kind of, those templates can basically also pull data from any of the three sources, EDL, the SAP extraction data, as well as, for example, the NIME workflow. Yeah, so during the implementation project, we also discussed one pain point we had in data analytics. In some cases, it was for us much easier to use existing SAP front-end reports instead of using analytics scripts. One prominent example would be a balance sheet overview. We also have very customized reports on inventory movements, or we're using standard reports in our FSCM system. And we did not have any RPA workflows implemented. So you can imagine downloading these data manually was a pretty numb and time-consuming task. And then we mentioned it would be nice to have this automated as well. And a few months later, DAB presented us with the first prototype of their SAP report extraction tool. You can find it also in the middle section. We call it, I think, RPA functionality. The official name, I think, is SAP report extraction tool. Yes. And we are about to bring this functionality live in our system. And once implemented, we hope and we believe this will easily save us 1 to 2 hours in audit preparation for each package we provide. I don't know, Robert, anything to add on the extraction or the report tool?
No, yeah, definitely. So thank you for mentioning it. One of the outcomes of the project was as well understanding some necessities and as well like needs and demands our client has. And we figured in this project that it would be a very nice way to position us in a different way than other tools when it comes to data extraction, to also incorporate reports along with the standard data extraction from SAP. So what we did is we implemented a feature in DB Nexus which allows you to export reports from SAP along with the data into a SQL Server. Reports is something that usually an end user, a dialog user in SAP goes into a transaction, wants to see all the open items for the vendor, and then see it as a list in SAP. That's something that you can incorporate into DB Nexus, telling it, hey, this report for open items of a vendor to a certain date, for example, I want to have it in my SQL Server so I can do a reporting it or some visualizations on that. Is something you can include, and DB Nexus does the job for you in the same manner like it extracts tables. So that was a really nice outcome as well from this project that we had here together. And we are more than happy when this will be as well here in this incorporated in the work at BASF. We have clients of ours that are using this as well. So it's a very prominent feature now of the Package Studio. Closing this whole thing of the analytic process that we also went along here at BASF is how the results are distributed. That's usually like the end thing you do in data analytics. And at BASF, we learned they're doing Power BI and Excel for distributing the results. That's how the world works. And that's what the DB Nexus serves as well. So exporting the results into an Excel file is something that it's doable. We saw it when we created the task, but it's also possible to use anything from the Microsoft universe, from Microsoft Power BI, Power Automate, or the Fabric, where you can plug and play it more or less with a connection to the data on a SQL server to do further automation or visualization of the data. Definitely any other third-party software that connects to a SQL server can be used as well for all those things that I just mentioned. We personally are using Microsoft products for that as well, like Denis does it for his work with Power BI. And once you're using something like Power BI, I prepared as well for that just a small Power BI template. That is something that is, for example, provided by us for the purchase to pay process, for example. Very nice dashboard that shows you all around your process, purchase order, open value. That's an example how Power BI can be used along with, for example, a purchasing base table provided with DB Nexus in your SQL server, and then you can build up several reports on that. Something that we have as well that are AI enhanced is like a decision tree or a forecast that can be built up on that. But something around that on how we will provide our dashboards and our data analytics, something that we will announce in a couple of months for you as well. So stay tuned for something new that is upcoming as a product from DAB. Right. So back to our slides. I must say we're coming to an end as result tracking is the end of the analytic process, so it is also the end of our webinar. Thank you very much, Denis, for your time, for the project that we did together. It was a very exciting time, and I'm very looking forward to all the time we spent together in this relationship. And yeah, happy working with you, and thank you very much.
Thank you for hosting, Robert. And maybe just to close out on the vision, of course, we're also looking forward to delving into machine learning and artificial intelligence topics going forward. That's also part of the vision. And in that context, we are also looking forward on testing what DAB has in the pipeline in the years and months to come.
Great. That's good that you mention it, because what I want to mention to our audience as well is our upcoming event of DAB that we have in our webinar series. As I mentioned, Moritz is doing very nice webinars on AI together with a colleague of ours, Philip. They're hosting a session called Insightful Patterns, a market basket analysis for SAP data. You should definitely tune in. It's very interesting. Will give you a lot of insights. That's also a analytic, or at least a solution we're working on that will be available in our tool like DAB Nexus that you can try out if you're interested in and see all the capabilities that we have with our tools. Great. Right, Q&A. Before we answer your questions, we will ask you a slight question how we did today. So please leave us a short, what's it called?
Rating?
Number grading, 1 to 5. 5 is very good, so hit 5. But while you're doing that, we will come to your questions that were asked here in the Q&A session. So let me just switch here to the section just to check on some of the question. Right. Something that probably can be answered by you, Dennis, is preserving existing analysis scripts. How was this achieved? Were the ACL scripts converted to SQL scripts by DAB?
Yes, actually, it was, I think, a good cooperation, and I think we can almost answer both questions that were put in one explanation. Yes, as part of the project, we kind of purchased as a service that DAB will support us in translating ACL scripts to SQL, but it was really a joint effort at the end. We were very closely collaborating on, for example, also the result templates. And of course, you have to test all those scripts, and maybe then answering also your second question. Yes, exactly. When we develop additional scripts, we usually don't do that directly in the custom analytics editor, but we just use SQL Management Studio, SQL Server Management Studio, I think it's called, right?
Yep.
To prototype, to test things, and then once we're pretty sure it's right and the results are good, only then we would translate it into a custom analytics scripts. Yeah, talking of archiving, that's probably one, or that's one thing I have on the wish list still, to have like a versioning or something, even for the custom analytics part. So far, we are using GitLab to take care of our SQL custom analytics scripts versioning.
Yes, maybe it's worth to mention that we do have on a roadmap for this year a lot of enhancements in terms of the custom analytics. Make it more easier, more convenient to work with, or as well like the handling of the filters, and maybe some other nice convenient things like versioning might be in there as well. But we want to focus on that along with other changes like making the usage of DAB Nexus a bit more user-friendly. We get a lot of feedback on that, on how we can improve. We have ideas. In terms of accessibility and visibility, we want to add some enhancements there as well.
Yeah. I don't know whether we fully answered your question, Gupta. Maybe just one thing to add. Yes, we did use, for example, the standard analytics using those base tables. So and then on top it was partly just a very little SQL customized script that we did, or we even took a base table and did all the rest of the transforming in Power Query.
All right. Then there is another question about the Power BI dashboard that was shown at the end. It's not already available, but it will be with a product that we will launch soon, and it's part of it when it comes to presenting the data. So stay tuned on that. It's just, I think, 2 months more, and then we will be having more information about that. An overview. Is there an overview of the ready-to-use KPIs available online? It will be online, actually. Unfortunately, right now it's not, as our website is currently still in the works on to be published, our new one. As you know, we undergo a very nice rebranding, so that's why we have such nice, colorful slides, logo, fresh, everything. But also the website will be fresh and having all this information in there with an overview. But definitely we will be more than happy to share with you a list of those KPIs as well. Sales will be doing that with you whenever you contact us. Then there is a very interesting question that I personally would like as well to address. It's what is the status about connecting other ERP system, warehouse management systems, or even customized base tables to Nexus? Would that be possible in the near future? I think BASF uses also other systems in operations. Well, BASF definitely does, right?
Yes.
And the thing is, right now, the capabilities of SAP when it comes to data extraction is limited definitely to extracting data from SAP. We are not happy about that. We want to extend this in future to have all the world of SAP incorporated in it, like Fieldglass, Ariba, Concur, connectors for that. But also there's a world outside of SAP, which we want to address in terms of possibilities to add data from that systems along with the SAP data or just that one in DB Nexus as connectors, and then run analytics on it, custom analytics, and then create a whole flow on that. That's something that is a vision for DB Nexus as well, to have such flows in future where you can incorporate all your sources that you have on a central place, run analytics along it, do some transformation, machine learning, and output into tools that you're using. Maybe in future as well, not only SQL Server, but many other destinations that might be interesting for you. Just in one platform, DB Nexus. So definitely working on. Right now, when we have projects like at BASF, then there is an option that you provide the data on the SQL Server outside of DB Nexus with a schedule or provided manually, and then you can incorporate this into your analytic runs as well, as you can write a custom analytic that pulls the data out of the database where it was provided and incorporate this into your analytic runs.
I was just about also to add that, Robert, it's a very small example, but the NIME workflow we are using to populate data out of a non-SAP system into a SQL database within that Nexus, and the data then being used further for our results, our templates. This would be one example. We need to push the data into the database. There's no functionality to pull it. But if you get that done, I think there are no limits in terms of custom analytics to also access and manipulate that data.
Yes. All right, 3 minutes left. No new question coming in. If you have the feeling that tomorrow morning you grab a coffee and there's like, I wanted to ask this, then we are not out of this place. You can write us an email, contact us, or write to us via LinkedIn. We are more than happy to answer all your questions that you might have, or to have a chat about your experiences or things that we can solve on your side. Please feel free to contact us. Other than that, I say again, thank you very much, Dennis, for your time doing this webinar with me, and as well, much appreciated having the project with you together. It was a very great time, and I'm looking forward for all the great things we will do. And thanks to everyone else joining this call, spending the time with us, having a look at the journey. Hope you had a great time with us, and yeah, see you soon in the next webinar in the DAB webinar series. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.